Thai court orders Yingluck Shinawat to step down. U.S. and allies pledge to free captive Nigerian schoolgirls. And kindergarten schoolboy left on a bus. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Thailand's caretaker prime minister and several members of her cabinet have been forced out of office by a constitutional court. The court has ruled Yingluck Shinawat is guilty of abuse of power in a conflict of interest case. The latest twist in the country's ongoing leadership crisis seems certain to push Thailand further into political turmoil.
The judges who delivered the verdict said Yingluck Shinawat abused her position through a hidden agenda by transferring the National Security Council chief to another post in 2011 so that her family could benefit from subsequent job moves. In announcing the verdict, the court said that the accused acted for her own political benefit in a transfer that wasn't done for the benefit of the country. 9 other cabinet ministers who the court said were complicit in the transfer are also being forced out. Other ministers not involved in the abuse case are being allowed to stay on. At a news conference soon after the ruling, Yingluck, who has denied any wrongdoing, thanked her supporters. Yingluck has faced months of protests in the capital, Bangkok, aimed at toppling her government. The anti-government protesters eventually turned to legal challenges to remove her. Thailand has had a caretaker government since Yingluck dissolved the lower house of parliament in December in a failed attempt to defuse anti-government protests. A snap election in February was disrupted and then annulled. As the ruling was announced on live TV, there was jubilation among anti-government protesters.
We are happy for the judge verdict, especially for her to stop working. She get out from ruling our country.
The decision is bound to anger Yingluck's supporters, who accuse the Constitutional Court of bias in frequently ruling against the government. Yingluck was Thailand's first female prime minister. Her Pheu Thai party swept to power in 2011 and remains popular among the country's poor majority. But Yingluck is despised by Bangkok's middle and upper class. In the meantime, the ruling does little to resolve Thailand's political crisis and leaves the country in limbo and primed for more violence. The remaining cabinet ministers have nominated the commerce minister to replace Yingluck. A new general election is still expected to go ahead on July 20th.
The United States is sending a team of experts to Nigeria to help secure the release of almost 300 schoolgirls abducted by the Boko Haram terrorist group. This comes as 8 more girls were kidnapped in northeastern Nigeria. As Alan Booknia reports, U.S. President Barack Obama is promising America will do everything possible to get the girls back.
This is a terrible situation. Boko Haram, this terrorist organization that's been operating in Nigeria, has been killing people and innocent civilians for a very long time. We've always identified them as one of the worst local or regional terrorist organizations there is out there. But I can only imagine what the parents are going through.
Boko Haram released a video on Monday saying it would sell the girls into slavery. The U.S. is sending a team to the Nigerian capital that includes military and law enforcement personnel skilled in intelligence, investigations, hostage negotiating, and victim assistance.
This may be the event that helps to mobilize the entire international community to finally do something against this horrendous organization that's perpetrated such a terrible crime.
President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan Tuesday welcomed and accepted a definite offer of help from the United States of America.
We are saying is bring back our girls! Bring back our girls! Alive!
But it's President Jonathan's perceived inaction over the past 3 weeks that has people taking to the streets daily.
We want our girls back now. Now. We are not interested in any stories.
There have been rumors that 2 girls died from snakebite wounds. This man has a sister and 3 nieces among the missing.
our community is relatively small, and if generation of the same age, 276 are out in the future, where are we going to get them?
The incidents have thrown the Nigerian government's failings on national security into the spotlight as the country hosts the World Economic Forum meeting on Africa. Alan Bookniat, TVB News.
Beijing and Hanoi are trading warnings after China moved a giant oil rig into disputed waters in South China Sea. The state-owned oil rig was moved into the waters off the Paracel Islands, called the Shisha Islands by China. Vietnam warned that it would take all necessary measures to defend its interests. Beijing responded by warning Hanoi not to disturb the activities of Chinese companies operating in that area. It's the latest show of Beijing's growing assertiveness, raising alarm among smaller countries in the region. The U.S. calls China's actions provocative and unhelpful to peace and stability. Back here in Hong Kong, calls tonight for a school bus company to be held responsible after a kindergarten student was left alone on one of its vehicles. He was later found unharmed, but as Ronnie Samtani reports, that's not good enough for some education sector officials.
The child who was left on the school bus goes to Kiangsu and Chekiang Kindergarten in North Point. At around 8:45 a.m. on Monday, he got on the bus in Apley Chow, where he lives. It's believed the boy fell asleep when the bus arrived at the school. He never got off the bus, and the driver or the bus nanny didn't notice. The bus was then driven to Aberdeen and parked on the roadside in Shek Pai Wan. The school then realized the child was missing and called the parents. The parents in turn called the company that runs the school bus, and it was only then that it found that the boy was still on the bus. The boy was discovered at around 10 a.m. He was in shock but was not injured. Mrs. Xu is in charge of the bus company. She apologizes for what happened and admits she should be held responsible. Mrs. Xu claims they didn't have enough buses on Monday, and the bus that was carrying the child was hired from a different firm. She also says bus nannies are supposed to take the children by the hand and bring them into school. The legislator for the education sector also waded in.
The school bus operator should also make sure that any services they are further employing is up to standard. They cannot say that is other business providers, because it is they who employ those providers to provide that service. So they should shoulder the major responsibility.
Leung Kong, chairman of an association for school bus companies, says it's very common for operators to hire buses because they can be used for tourists when they are not serving students. By law, all school buses serving kindergartens and primary schools must have a bus nanny on board. Their job is to make sure the children get to and from school safely. The school bus service was not arranged by the school, and a spokesperson for the kindergarten said this is a matter between the parents and the bus company. But the school reminded parents to make sure that their children travel to and from school safely. In a similar case 4 years ago, a 4-year-old was stranded inside a school bus parked in Ma On Shan. He banged on the window for help and was later freed. The driver and the bus nanny were later arrested for negligence. Ronnie Samtani, TVB News.
More now on the growing rift in the pan-democratic camp following the selection of political reform proposals by Occupy Central supporters. As Diane Toh tells us, moderate pan-democrats are now warning of a difficult road ahead.
Some say the irony of the situation is obvious. The civil disobedience movement that aims to ensure the public has a genuine choice of chief executive candidates to vote for is now offering 3 similar options for a citywide referendum next month. All 3 proposals include civil nomination as a means to choose CE candidates. They received the highest number of votes yesterday from about 2,500 people who've signed up to take part in the Occupy Central movement. Today, backlash from other pan-democrats.
The result can't be that convincing if the people of Hong Kong are not being presented with any real choice.
Instead, Tong has now called on those who want to ensure a genuine choice of candidates without civil nomination to pool resources together.
I think we must devote some time to consider and discuss what sort of arrangement we ought to have in order to make the nominating committee a truly broadly representative committee. I think that is the only way to go. If not, I fear that our dream for universal suffrage in 2017 will be completely shattered.
The proposal put forward by Scholarism and the Hong Kong Federation of Students got the most votes yesterday. The students said today 90% of yesterday's votes went to the 3 proposals out of the 15 shortlisted options, so it's clear that civil nomination is what the pan-democratic majority wants. Whether or not Occupy Central goes ahead, the students vowed to take action, peaceful ones they stressed, on July the 1st, if the government rolls out a reform proposal that's without civil nomination. And citing the student movement on the mainland in 1989, they said they're ready to fight for their democratic future.
If we really want a true democratic system to be rooted in Hong Kong, we could not forget those who sacrificed in Tiananmen Square, because we are facing the same authority. They're still brutal. This is the only way that we could inherit the spirit and try to make a significant difference.
Diane To, TVB News.
Lawmakers are raising a stink over a government funding request to expand the Chung Kwan O landfill and build an incinerator in Shek Kwu Chau. Here's Stephanie Choi.
Protesters made their voices heard outside LegCo this morning. They voiced opposition to the administration's plans to expand the Chung Kwan O landfill and to build an incinerator at Shek Kwu Chau. They wanted lawmakers to reject the government's funding request. Inside, demonstrators at the public gallery disrupted the LegCo Public Works Subcommittee meeting. James Aitken of the Liberal Party said he supports the construction of the incinerator, but is against the extension of the landfill. Some lawmakers questioned if this would be the last time the government is proposing the expansion of the Chung Kwan O landfill.
We endorsed the extension plans for the 3 landfills and the construction of 1 incinerator. Can you guarantee that this will be the last round of extension? In the long run, we would like to reduce our reliance on landfilling in disposing waste. So every day we would like to reduce the daily load.
Other lawmakers were skeptical about the government's figures on the Chung Kwan O landfill reaching capacity.
I think in the past, Mr. Wit Yao said that it was supposed to reach its capacity in 2013. Now we're year 2014 and we're told that it will be reaching the capacity in 2014. Now you are sort of shifting the year all the time. On what basis have you made such an estimate? The figures will vary as a result of population growth, the recycling rate, as well as the rate of waste generation. So every time we have to base our estimate on the latest figures.
Lawmakers